US President Donald Trump has stunned the world with his order of withdrawing troops from Syria, a decision that upends American policy in the Middle East. President Trump has now released a video announcing troop withdrawal from Syria and also confirmed that US has defeated ISIS in Syria, and that was the only reason why the US forces were in Syria. Israel Prime Minister has responded to the US announcement regarding withdrawal from Syria, stating that Israel will study US decision to pull out its forces from Syria and will ensure its own security. In a statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that he and US President, along with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, had talks about their intention to withdraw US forces from Syria. The United States has announced that the World Food Programme of the United Nations will stop providing food aid to Palestine. The aid cut will affect about 190,000 impoverished Palestinians in Gaza and West Bank. A Palestinian official has blamed US for the selfish policy. The UN agency has said that it will suspend food assistance to 27,000 people in the West Bank from January 1st. In addition, food aid to 165,000 people in the Israeli-occupied territory and in the Gaza Strip would be reduced by 20%. Members of the Houthi movement rallied in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, supporting the United Nations mediated ceasefire agreement for the city of Hodeidah. Tens of Houthis carrying rifles and rocket-propelled grenades gathered, chanting and dancing in support of the ceasefire. The United Nations was due to convene the Houthis and the Saudi-backed Yemeni government by video link to discuss a troop withdrawal from Hodeidah city and 3 ports under the truce deal last week. The Chief Justice of Brazil's Supreme Court has knocked down a decision by a fellow judge that would have freed imprisoned former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Earlier, Justice Março Aurelio Melo had approved an appeal that would have freed Lula, who has been in jail since April on corruption charges. But Chief Justice José Antonio Dias Toffoli ruled out the judge's approval of freeing former President Lula. The British opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn denied calling Theresa May a stupid woman during Prime Minister's questions in the Parliament. Corbyn clarified that he had said stupid people and not stupid woman after footage of him appearing to mouth the statement was captured by television cameras. But Conservative MPs said they did not believe Mr. Corbyn's explanation and repeated calls for an apology from him. The British government has set out the biggest overhaul of its immigration policy in decades by ending special treatment for European Union nationals while promising to give businesses time to adapt to its post-Brexit plans. The government has also planned to speed up the processing of work visas and reduce the burden on businesses sponsoring workers. The new system will be phased in from the start of the post-Brexit implementation period, currently set to run until the end of December 2020. Amid a diplomatic row between Canada and China, another Canadian national has been arrested by Beijing. This third detention since the arrest by Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou by Canada on December 1st, but the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has clarified that this detention is a separate case from last 2 detentions. Canadian Foreign Ministry confirmed that they were aware of the detention. Meng Wanzhou was arrested allegedly at the behest of America and is currently on bail. The animal rights activists protested in Paris against the global wool industry and its treatment of sheep. Activists from PETA bore fake wounds and carried a lamb covered in blood to call on people to stop using wool. They protested near one of Paris's iconic department stores on Boulevard Haussmann in the middle of the Christmas shopping rush. PETA said that sheep mistreatment is systematic in the wool industry and they urge shoppers not to buy wool products as Christmas presents. Thousands of protesters wearing yellow vests marched in front of Taiwan Presidential Palace. Protesters demanded tax and judicial reform. Taiwan's Yellow Vest movement started in 2016, rallying against unfair taxation. They call on the government to stop using fines and taxation as a means of political persecution against anti-government organizations. Hundreds of people held a protest march outside the Greek legislature. The protests took place as lawmakers debated the heavily indebted country's draft budget for 2019. It will be Greece's first budget since it exited an 8-year bailout program. The vote counting has begun in the Madagascar presidential elections. Former Madagascan presidents Marc Ravalomanana and Andry Rajoelina have spent lavishly on campaigning in a country that suffers dire poverty. Issues of poverty, corruption and lack of basic services have been pushed to one side by both the candidates in their campaigns. Provisional results in the runoff are expected before end of the year. Supporters of Congolese opposition's presidential candidate rallied in Kinshasa despite official halt to campaigning in Democratic Republic of Congo's capital. Earlier, Kinshasa's governor had prohibited campaigning in the city ahead of presidential vote for security reasons, but the opposition supporters claim that the move was an attempt to meddle in the race. The long-delayed election is meant to choose a successor for President Joseph Kabila. If successful, it would lead to Congo's first democratic transfer of power. Thousands of high school teachers rallied on the streets of Tunis to demand better pay and conditions. The teachers from different provinces of Tunisia gathered in front of the Education Ministry, chanting "No to the humiliation of teachers" and "The people want fiscal justice." They also called for the resignation of Education Minister Hatem Ben Salem, whom they blamed for stalled negotiations. The Tunisian parliament had recently rejected a draft law to raise the retirement age from 60 to 62. India has initiated a probe after a report that US pharmaceutical and cosmetics giant Johnson & Johnson deliberately concealed for decades that its baby powder contained cancer-causing asbestos. Drug inspectors seized samples of Johnson & Johnson and baby powder from the company's paddy plant in the northern state of Himachal Pradesh. India's National Disaster Response Force continued search operations at a flooded mine in East Jaintia Hills, where 13 miners are trapped since 14th December. 2 teams from the National Disaster Response Force are engaged in the search operations, but there has been no luck so far. The illegal mine at Saipung area collapsed and got flooded from an adjacent river, trapping the miners. The reconstruction of a prehistoric marine reptile went on display at the Bernardino Rivadavia Natural Sciences Argentine Museum in Buenos Aires. The example on display at the museum was reconstructed from fossils discovered in Argentina's Patagonia region near the Santa Cruz province. The plesiosaur on display lived some 65 million years ago at the end of the Mesozoic era, just before the extinction of the dinosaurs. The Cuban government has announced that language promoting the legalization of gay marriage will be removed from the draft of a new constitution after widespread popular rejection of the idea. Gay rights advocates had proposed eliminating the description of marriage as the union of a man and woman, changing it to the union of 2 people with absolutely equal rights and obligations. The constitution would instead be silent on the issue, leaving open the possibility of a future legalization without specifically promoting it. Reversal comes after protests by churches and ordinary citizens on the new institution. Fascinated by a traditional Chinese belief of adopting animals for good luck, people in Russia have started adopting mini pigs for New Year, as 2019 is believed to be the year of pigs. According to the belief, having an animal which symbolizes the upcoming year brings good luck, and the Chinese New Year starts in the month of February. The anonymous graffiti artist Banksy has left his mark again, and this time in the Welsh steel town of Port Talbot, with a new piece that seems to refer to the industry. Banksy has confirmed that the artwork belonged to him by posting a video on his official Instagram account with the caption, "Season's Greetings." The painting shows a child stretching out his arms in the midst of a snowstorm, but the second wall reveals the snow to be ash billowing from an incinerator. Christmas nativity scene was given an indigenous twist at Lima Children's Hospital, with young patients and their parents in traditional dress for the recreation of the birth of Jesus. Nurses, doctors and hospital staff also joined in, dressing up as the three wise men and giving out traditional sweet bread to symbolize the gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh given to the baby Jesus. Mexicans of all ages are celebrating by smashing open traditional Christmas pinatas this holiday season. The colorful pinatas are made from clay shells or cardboard covered with paper cones stuck on with glue. Once the cones are dry, they are covered in colorful paper mache. Pinatas are broken during the celebration to commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ. Pinata represents Satan, and it is broken by a stick, symbolizing virtue. Fruit, nuts or candy fall to the ground.